Um, Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kevin. Um, so today, it's my honor to be here to have a sharing section with all of you guys. So there are lots of professors, experts in the industry. Um, so before I begin, I have probably do a bit of introduction of myself. So this is the topics which I'm going to talk today, sports VR. It's a very eye-catching topics. I'm one of the co-founder of the company and the chief operating officer of Jet1 Motion and slash virtual site. So this is our office. So you can see, you can imagine what will I do after a break or after my lunch. That's where I will take my rest in all these simulators. So some background about my company. Firstly, I have to admit it, we don't have a very long history with sports, so I'm probably more focused on the technology side. And well, indeed, we don't have a long history. We founded in 2013, and we are a startup company. AR, VR is a very hot topic these days. I'm pretty sure all of you heard about augmented reality, virtual reality, where Peter also showcased, how do you make use of VR for sports. As a startup company in AR, VR, we have been struggling. So since this year is 2017, right? In the last 4 years, it's an amazing journey to us. As a startup companies, we are self-funded companies. We don't have a lot of fundings. So every single year, we have to figure out a new business model, how to ride on the new technology, and how to adopt it to the markets. And fortunately, after 4 years' time, we sort of figured out a sustainable business model, and also somewhere we believe how we position AR, VR in the coming future. So background here, we are one of the pioneer AR, VR solution company in APAC. So headquartered, we're based in Hong Kong, and we had our regional office in Los Angeles, Paris, Shanghai, Philippines, and Macau. So all these offices will have their own functionality. Obviously, in US, we're looking for technology inbound. We license technology in Paris. We are looking for creativities, content makers, Philippines, and we're looking for more customer services, and Shanghai and Macau. So our user base right now is over 500,000 users, over 300 corporates around the world, and we serve more than 50 industries. So you can imagine, I was coming from a background of I've spent 20 years in digital industry. I was, in the gaming industry since 1998, and in all these years, I haven't been worked in any position where I have to deal with 50 industry. Can you imagine that? So basically our client pools are all over the world with all these industry coverage. You will be surprised. You're probably thinking, in terms of AR, VR, who will interest the most in using AR, VR? In the very beginning, we are thinking about maybe the younger generations or the innovative industry. They are interested in AR, VR, but end up, the industry who comes to us, who approach us, they are coming from banking, insurance company, government institutions, casinos, properties development. They are all traditional industry. So that gives us a very, a good direction, which means there is a hot demand in the corporate sector. And among the 50 industry, you can imagine we are not an enterprise. We're a company size less than 50 people, right? And that would be a nightmare if we have to go deep down for every single different industry domain. So after 4 years of studying and evolving, this year we launched a new platform called Virtual Site, which is something which I'm going to showcase afterwards. So that will be, we want to focus in a particular domain, and sports is our pick. We believe in sports and VR. So that's what I mentioned in number 4. Sports, that will be our first domain. And then afterwards, we will we want to expand our business focus onto entertainment and lifestyle as well. And right now, we are official partner, VR partner for lots of sports events in Hong Kong and Macau. And this year, we also ranked as top 25 VR solution providers by a magazine called APEC CIO Outlook, based in Fremont, California. So frankly, to a locally established company in Hong Kong, it means a lot to us. So this is our business model. As I mentioned, the company founded in 2013. It's only 4 years old company. And we've got 4 different business model here. So it's very easy to understand the chart here. So I would say this is the model for Jet1, but it's almost the whole landscape for the whole VR sector. So you can read the chart in that way, right? In yellow is number 1, service number 2, experiment and training is number 3, and R&D is number 4. That means in the very beginning, we're always starting off with entertainment. Entertainment is eye-catching, especially with AR and VR. So that's the easiest way that you can get the user's attention. And moving forward, as I mentioned, we're moving to the B2B sectors where we develop a lot of AR, VR projects for corporates, for schools and educations, and for sports as well. And then moving onward, we're moving to the green sectors where we have education and training. Right now, we're actually partnering with lots of education institutions in Hong Kong and Macau, and also universities, where we're giving out courses talking about AR and VR. And finally, it's the blue section talking about R&D. So R&D sector here, so we just launched this website called Virtual Site. It's a VR advertising platform, and also with the big data. So Virtual Site is a VR advertising platform focused in sports. So there are lots. I will not go into each point here one by one. It's quite techy. But I will have another presentation just for Virtual Site. But what I want to mention here, you'll probably see a lot of 360 videos out there in the market. You'll see a lot of VR gears. You'll see a lot of VR contents. For us, we want to be focused. We found there are lots of 360 videos on YouTube. I think on YouTube, so that we do YouTube is a platform where it supports playing 360 videos. But YouTube, in our experiences, is a lot of powerful channel for distributing a VR contents. So right now, there is no platform who's dominating in the market right now. So there's no YouTube VR. There's no such things yet. So everyone's still on the early stage. So that's where we are at. So we would like to create a VR-specific platform for sports, starting with a professional VR community. So here's a little bit of information about the augmented and virtual reality market shares in the 2020. I think Peter also mentioned about the revenue forecast in the next 5 years. I think your forecast is a little bit more aggressive than this one here. But in terms of, we expect in 2020, the AR VR market is going to rise up to $150 billion. And as Peter mentioned before, the majority will be on the augmented reality. And that will be the distribution of all the different industry. But what we disagree here is we don't think the hardware, in 2020, no matter AR hardware or VR hardware, will occupy that much of the markets. I believe the hardware will cut into a top 30%, and we expect a lot of the VR contents will occupy at least 50 to 60% of the whole market shares. So you will see a lot of people in the coming few years. You will see a lot of different applications, contents, games that is going to release out there in the market, especially in Korea. Korea is a market where Korean is very good at graphic designs and content development. So I would expect a lot of company here. I would expect a lot of gaming companies or filming industry. They will also step into VR and AR contents in the coming couple of years. All right, so here's the users growth. Obviously, the use is going to grow because of the penetration of the hardware. On one side, as of today, we are still talking about the three major platforms or the three major headsets that we are using. We're still talking about, Oculus of Facebook, HTC Vive, and also Sony PlayStation. Those are still the three major headsets out there in the market. But we were expecting in 2018, pure VR users will grow to 171 million users. So that number itself is a lot, frankly, in my point of view. But our expectation will be, which I also shared the same during the lunch session, 171 million will be a pure VR hardcore users. But we expect in the coming 5 years, mobile users, AR users, and VR users, they will all be integrated. They will all merge to become a giant users. So right now, you're already playing or watching 360 videos on your devices. And in the future, all the apps or even website, they will have a VR sector. So this is already happening in lots of Asian countries. A lot of, we've got CNN, the application, and you've got CNN VR. You've got National Geographic, and you've got National Geographic VR. So there are lots of medias, there are lots of, I think, that the fact is like, while we're still debating is VR or AR is going to be the next explosive market, it's already happening. This is it's very similar to the gaming industry. Way back in 2007, when the first iPhone launched, right? I remember the first game that I played on iPhone. I'm not sure if you remember that. What is the first game on the iPhone? Anyone can answer that? Do you remember? The first game, I'm not sure if that's the first game, but the first game that I played on iPhone is a rolling dice, right? So at that time, after I played the rolling dice game on iPhone, I speak to myself, it's no way iPhone gaming is going to override console games. I'm still playing my PlayStation, I'm still playing my Xbox and whatever, Nintendo, right? So I don't believe the rolling dice mechanics on iPhone will grow. But after 1 year, or a little bit more than 1 year, when I look back into the markets, all the apps, games, they're already out there. So by that time, I realized, the trend is already there. So I think VR will have the same thing. It will not be something that will override your existing platform like today, but it is a good add-on to your existing platform. Today, you have got your website, you have got your, you have got your applications, you have got your KakaoTalk channel, WeChat channel, and in the future, you will have your AR, VR corner. So that's why I believe, that numbers is not accurate. If you imagine the combinations of, or the mix of the mobile users and the VR users, AR users, that would be huge. So that's the trend which I just mentioned. So every 7 years, a new digital platform appears and becomes mainstream. So obviously, you can see, I actually go through all these trends. So in 2000, we were talking about a website. And then 2007, we were talking about Web 2.0. I'm sure some of you may have heard about these terms. We're talking about how do you make use of using Web 2.0, using YouTube, even using Gmail is a Web 2.0. And 2007, we started talking about mobile applications. And then 2013, we're focusing a lot on the social media. And in the 2020, or even closer than that, we will have AR or VR. All right, so here's another interesting figures. So obviously, on the left-hand side, we're talking about the VR, virtual reality market, will be bigger than televisions, which I have no doubt, because televisions marketing is very diversified. You don't watch your TV anymore. You watch your iPad. You watch your iPhone. And we expect VR will be override the tele exposure, and that is the market size. And what US $162 billion, that is a semi-annual spending. So that means in yearly, we're talking about over 300 billions on how the advertisers spend their marketing dollars. All right, back to the questions about a lot of the challenges or questions that I received that every day is talking about, hey, we're talking about AR and VR all the time, right? So who's using it? Who's actually wearing a goggles on the street? Who's actually have their 360 application download on their iPhone? So right now, it's not much. But my question to that will be, we're actually here. When it comes to marketing, it's not just talking about the quantity. It's talking about the quality, right? In the mobile world, you always open up applications, right? And then you will have all these annoying advertising pop up, or even when you're playing a game, you will have all these in-game advertisings pop up. So these are what we call the click-through rate for desktop and mobile. I'm not sure how many of you actually will look into the advertisings when you're watching your mobile phones. But the ratio that someone who has the intention to actually click on your mobile advertising is just 1%. And that 1% will indeed also include a lot of force clicking, which means you don't have the intention to open it, but you want to close it, but you couldn't click on the close button because it's too small and you end up opening it. So that's part of the 1% as well. So that's the desktop and the mobile advertising these days. And so that will bring to you questions like, okay, all right, so today the mobile users, yes, they are huge. There are million of users, they are using mobiles. And you show up a logo, you show up advertising to these people, it seems to a huge exposure, but all these, they are not incentive, they are not target marketing. You're wasting your money, you're wasting your marketing dollar. While on the other side, virtual reality, we are talking about a ad successful rate, which means 30% of the people within the 360 or virtual reality environment, they are willing to see it. They are willing to take an action to look into what is the advertising means. There is a reason for that, which I'm going to show you afterwards. And the figures on the left-hand side is talking about the install rates. It doesn't have to be installed. You can call that an action rates. What it means, like, among the 30 people, you watch a advertising in the virtual reality environment, 30% of the people are willing to take an action to click on it. And among the 30%, 12.5% of the people are willing to use it, to take an action, to install the application, to fill in the form, or to register on the website. So these figures will give you it's a chicken and egg questions. Mobile users have a huge user space, but the successful rate is extremely low, while for VR, user space is coming, and it's a proven case is that the successful rate is extremely high. So that's a few very common VR advertising format out there in the market right now. VR advertising is still a new thing. It's a new business model. It's a new ecosystem with all different benchmarks. The traditional marketing cannot apply to VR anymore. So that all these formats are going to evolve. But these days, these are the common format where how do you do that in the virtual reality environment, right? And so on the left-hand side and right-hand side, we're talking about the first day and the second day retention. So pre-roll video, which means when you watch a video, you'll watch an advertising before the official content that you want to watch. It's similar to YouTube, but the differences will be you're watching a video in a 360 format. Local banner application, which I'm going to show you in the demo. So that will be like what we call a non-intrusive advertising, which means right now, if you watch most of the advertisings on your mobile, or even when you're watching videos, it will pop up. It will stop you from watching wherever you are watching. It's very instructive. While VR have this special environment, you can have your advertising opportunities in the virtual environment, and we will not disturb your experiences. While the other 50%, they will talking about 3D interactive object. So that is a very interesting one. Imagine like, we are watching a soccer games in the VR environment. If you're a branding, your marketing campaign could be extremely creative. You can have your campaign logos, or you can have a angry bird flying over through the skies. It could be anything, and it can look really real. So once again, so these are all the industry which we these are all the client bases of Jet1 of our company. So in corporate, we've got bank, insurance, and properties, automotive, magazines, and luxury brand. So they're already traditional brand. So it actually makes a lot of sense. A lot of the corporates, they are the only company who is wealthy enough to spend this innovative dollar on new technologies. Where the middle column is where we want to focus in the coming future, sports. And afterwards, of course, art and fashion, magazine, casinos, concert, blah. The other big sector here is training and education. We're talking about education training, NGO, governments, corporate, professional chamber, well, actually, and for sports training as well. So during lunchtime, we had sort of like a short discussion with other speakers here, talking about the sports training. And Peter also showcased a video of how do people make use of VR to train in rugby experiences. So my opinion would be VR is an ideal technology where you can do a lot of scenario training. We actually do that for a lot of our partners here with NGO and government as well. So what do you mean by scenario training? It means it's a scenario where you cannot have that in real life, but you can repeat and have that scenario in virtual reality. Example would be, one of the projects that we are working on with the governments, we are working on a series of training programs, how to teach people if there is a fire happening here, what should you do? So fire is a scenario where it's very hard to simulate. You cannot just burn something and put someone there and train them, right? So VR is a good example that we shoot this film in one of the old factory thing, and then we film the firing, the environment, and then we put a few objects in that scenario. We have a iPad, we have a wallet, we have a wet towel, and we have a fire extinguisher. So we can make that using a post-editing technology of Unity. I can make the training like a gamification. So if this place is on fire, what will you do? Would you pick an iPhone? Will you pick your wallet? Will you make a phone call? Or you pick up your wet towel? And depends on different selection, it will come to a different scenario. So that's how we make use of VR for professional trainings or for safety training. While for sports, we're also talking about using the example which Peter showcases just now in the video. So let's say in the rugby environment, VR would be something good for a scenario or tactics training, right? So let's say if you're in a soccer field, if someone approach you like that, should I go that way, or should I go that way, or should I pass the ball? So I can train up the tactics or teamwork. How do you deal with a situation using the technology? But VR, if you ask my opinion, is not quite there yet for a personal training. For example, you will not use VR today for basketball because there's a lot of basketball games out there in the market, but the game itself is not a physical ball. It will not improve your shooting skills because you don't have that shooting thing. You don't have that physical stuff in your hand. So that's how we position AR, VR in terms of training these days. There will be bargains. There will be a discussion saying, okay, if in terms of technology itself, everything is possible. I can install a sensor. I can install a VR sensors on the basketball. I can install a sensor on the basketball court there. I can simulate the whole thing, and I can wear my goggles, and I can shoot, and I can have the whole physical experience in the virtual reality. you can do that. But it's just talking about the costs. After you spend all this money and hassles, why don't you just bring your ball and go to play in the basketball court, right? And also, I think that comes to one of the mission that that what we want to achieve here with AR and VR. So these days, when people talk about AR, augmented reality or virtual reality, people are thinking, oh wow, it's technology stuff, right? It's high there. I don't know how to use it. So there are goggles, there are all these cables, but we don't want to use it. So our mission here is the opposite. We want to bring this technology down to earth. We tell our users, our clients, the technology is already here. If you asked me 5 years ago, the technology is there, but it's extremely expensive. You shouldn't spend your dollar. But today, you should use it. And this is the right timing, because this is the infant stage. 1 year later or 2 years later, you will have to double or triple your costs to have the same impact. All right, so these are I think these are repeating reasons. So what are the reasons that you're using VR, right? So first of all, because the head-mounted devices, HMD, the makers, the prices is dropping. So this year, I'm not sure how many of you actually use a VR goggles or a pro-level devices before. 2 years ago, we were talking about, $700, $800 for devices with all these cablings and all the PCs. And this year, HTC going to launch a China-based head-mounted. I think it's cost something like $200 or $300. It's an OEM. You don't need your mobile phone. You don't need your PC. You can just wear it and go. So that will be something. So I less worry about the technology level. I will only worry about how to make use of the technology in your life. What does the technology related to you? How do you make use of that in your business? So Microsoft and PC makers are coming in with MR headsets. So basically, you can see, as I think, companies like Facebook, Microsoft, Google, they will be a super good references, like you can following the path there. They're all doing their home head-mount devices. There will be hesitations. You can see you will probably see a lot of news every day talking about, HTC is not doing this, and Microsoft is not doing that, and Google, stopped producing AR glasses a couple of years ago. But I don't think that is a I think that is a timing issues. The technology there is quite ready. It's talking about when do you spend the money and launch the product. And in terms of the content productions, no more stitching and fast production and less expensive. So that's more on my side. So we are the company that will, after we create the content, so there are lots of process. And the technology itself, not just the hardware, but the software is also getting mature and mature. In the old days, just like you're developing mobile games for iOS and Android, in the very beginning, you have to figure out all the codings, how do you deploy onto different platforms. There's no regulation out there. You have to, engineer have to, spend a day's work on how to put an application onto an Apple App Store. But these days, the production work is getting cheaper and cheaper, and it's more regulated. And also, we will see a lot of social media platforms are supporting 360 video and live VR. And of course, the Apple AR kits. All right, so we are as mentioned, virtual site, which is the logo on the top right corner. So when virtual reality crossovers with sports, we've got sports VR. So what we are doing here is actually, we are taking a lot of the footage of major sports events, and within the videos, it creates a lot of business opportunities. So we develop the contents by ourselves. We shoot the contents, we do post-productions, and then we put it out to the market. And then we talk to our sponsors and merchandisers and say, hey, this is the new way of doing your sports. So let's put it this way. In the old days, when you are hosting a sports event, the traditional way is like, I decided the date, I asked for sponsorships, I organized the events, all the tickets and merchandisings, and everything ended on the sports event day, right? It doesn't matter marathons or a leash game. The sponsors will sponsor a particular event, and all the marketing stop or all the brand exposure terminated on the day when the event ends. With VR, we can have the platform, we have the technology where we can extend the event hype. So imagine, so that's how we do it, right? A lot of the sponsors, they're spending a lot of sponsors' money try to do their advertising right on a sports event. They will always ask a question, what is the numbers of your participants? What is the number of your exposure on that day, all right? And now we have that solution and tell them saying, hey, we actually also consider the extensive duration of your event. It's not just pre-event, but also post-event. There will be a time gap from your event till the next year. Your money is not going to waste. Your branding is still going to show in the VR environment. So that is the idea. So basically, for any sports event, we will do on-the-day advertisings, and we will do a 360 video advertisings, and also we have got our own KOLs or YouTubers or celebrities to generate the traffics. And then we will generate the videos with logos or any objects that you want to put into the content. And then we share with all the sponsors, and then it will go viral. And the beauty of that is like, in the old days, it's kind of like an advertising revolution. In the old days, it's very direct. I want to sponsor the events. I like this event. I want to spend my dollar money and have my exposure and ride together with this event, right? But in the future, you can actually sponsor events, multiple events, using virtual reality. And the beauty of that is like, imagine you've got a 360 video or virtual reality, environment or content. You can actually have a lot of potentials that you can do advertisings with the virtual reality environment. So that's one showcase. Can you play the first video? Right. So this is Central in Hong Kong. So I don't think you're familiar with this place, but if you're a local in Hong Kong, you will see the whole place is all different. We changed the whole, there's a lot of different logos. You see the Spartan race. So this whole building, so these are our partners. So we have their logo on the you see hybrid, that is our partner. And that is our partner in Korea. That is a Hong Kong Management Association. And that is our logo on the ground. And that is the logo of the universities. So, and there's another logo up there on the building. See the red one? It's supposed to be 360 Iris. It's a yoga event. All right. So that's what I call a fractionless advertising. It's not intrusive. So this is the beauty of that. Is like, you're already seeing it, and you don't know this is actually a post-editing work. I can showcases your brandings, your products, or your whatever you want to expose in a fractionless way, in an interesting format.
What is your profession?
So this is a Spartan race. So we are the official VR sponsor. So see all these logos here, all these brandings is post-editing. And all logos here, and the outdoor channel. So this is only a trailer of the official videos. We don't have a 360 video plays here, so I cannot play the official one. But what I want to say is like, that's how we do it. And we think sports is a good content because it's interesting enough, it's exciting, it's something linkage to your lifestyle. Everyone loves sports. So it's easy to generate a lot of the traffics. And so that's the thing. So frictionless advertising, next big thing in VRS. That's what I mentioned about non-intrusive. And most importantly, it gives you an opportunity to advertise your branding without compromising the video fidelity and realism. So you don't disturb the user's experience, all right? And many brands can be coexisted with the same video or photo. And it can be replaced from time to time. It's a one-click job. And there's a cost per brand will be lower than the pre-roll video. So basically, so here's the thing, it's just the same theory, right? So you rather spend the money on the event day, but now we give you another option to showcase, and it's an interesting way to do advertising through a sports event. So we basically give advertisers a totally new platform or new concepts. How do you make use of the technology in the most easiest way? And of course, we can do relevant ads in relevant contents. And most importantly, video has a longer shelf life. Can you play the third videos? All right. So this is in Hong Kong. It's a place, Wan Chai. All right. So see the logos there. So once again, it's a very interesting. It's a very expensive places here. We don't have the money to do advertising here on that with that banner. It's a post-editing work, and so that's how. That's how advertising in VR will looks like in a video format. So in theory, it could be anything. And there will be a lot of questions to these videos, to these pictures. You will have the questions, all right, so why put the logo there? In the 360 environment, why don't we put it like up there in the skies? Why don't we put it there, and cover up the train station? Would that be more powerful? So here's the answers. Oh, we can stop the videos. Can you? All right. So we are talking about the next topic here is the VR big data. So back to the sample here. So in VR. So first of all, we are talking about big data here, and I'm talking about the VR big data. So there are two types of big data or reporting in VR. The first one is called object tracking. So this is what we call the first one is called heat map. This is called what we call heat mapping. All right, so obviously the red one are the ones where most people see. The yellow one is less people, and the green one and the blue one. So actually, that's a very interesting figure, because that will give us a reason, why do I put my objects here, but not there, And it also, it's a very interesting behavior study. You can imagine, in the real world, you probably, usually, the higher the advertising position, the more expensive. You always want to put your advertising on the top of the buildings. That's the most expensive advertising slots, right? But we're actually in VR, from what we experience, we can actually tell you, there's actually no one will look up the logos in the top of the buildings. You spend your money at somewhere no one is watching. Where actually most of the people, they were only watching things at the sea level. So why would you rather spend the money there? So there's a lot of, of course, you will probably saying, all right, of course, if I see from a distance, I will see everything, the higher is easier to see. But at least in that kind of environment, I would say there's no point to have your advertising on the top of the buildings. So the heat map is the first type of object tracking. The second one is the precise object tracking technology. So this is, we do have that in our videos. The one that I just showed you, we have we actually planted a lot of, using Unity, we planted a lot of object tracking technologies. That means in the virtual reality environment or using 360 on your mobile phones, well, I can actually keep track of what are you watching. So that sounds very scary, but it's the truth. There's no privacy there. I can actually keep track of, while you walk into these conferences, where do you look at? Do you actually watching my presentations? Or do you actually walk down and playing your iPhone? In the virtual reality environment, I can keep track of that. You will have the questions, how do we make use of that, right? So my answer to that will be, advertising is one of the usage, but there are lots of usage where you can make use of this kind of VR data. I would call that, in the old days, we are talking about big data. Everyone know about big data. Everyone talking about big data, right? But big data, I think, is the time go to version 2.0. In the old days, the big data means you're a male, you're at your mid-40s, your phone numbers, or your email addresses, where do you live, this kind of stuff. But those kind of data, they are useless. No one is interested in these kind of data anymore because everyone have this data. Your data is already sold to all these telcos, governments, they all have your stuff. Right now, people, what their interest is a in-depth big data 2.0, talking about, just like, Tencent is very good at that. They have, WeChat, they have got these, mobile payment services. They will keep track of, or Alibaba, they will keep track of your, spending usage. How do they spend your money? What is your shopping experience? What is your shopping habits? They have that thing. With VR, that will bring the big data level to a second stage. I can track down your behavior. In this environment, will you turn left or will you turn right? Do you like to look at guys or do you like to look at girls? So all these kind of data. So we do have a project working with an NGO. They want to have a sort of like a curing medical program for their kids. So they all have this, what's the word again? Authentic disorder. So they are not willing to step out of their room. So their kids. So we have this we're using VR technology. We generate this environment where the kids, when they first wearing the headset and go into this environment, I can keep track of where they are looking. They are all heading down. They are all watching the floors for the first time. When they play for the 5th times, I can see their sensor. They are walking around. They are looking around. They start to get used to the environment, but they are still not focused. So after they play the 10th times, finally they can be focused. So that is another example of how do we make use of a VR big data. So some key takeaways. So as I mentioned, AR, VR advertising is the latest digital marketing platform. But once again, I want to say, we are commercial bodies, so we will, put a lot of focus into advertising, how do you, monetize things and things like that. But what we want to achieve is actually, the data. Imagine if we can all this behavior data for a VR community. The value of, all this behavior value of all these VR users is highly valuable. Right, so and then 53% of consumers would purchase from a brand that sponsors VR, so that's very obvious. Head-mounted devices price are dropping. I think we mentioned that before, and no more stitching, pre-roll videos. Yeah, I think that's a little bit of repeat. So our progress here. So what we have been doing. So right now, as I mentioned, we are the official partner for Spartan. And in the coming days, last year we've got Formula E in Hong Kong. So we are doing similar stuff. So for Formula E, we're doing another format, which is not taking the video footage, but we actually develop a track. It's the same Formula E track it's a computer graphics where we generated the whole driving experiences the same as the real track. And obviously, it's the same deal where you can have different logos on the side of the wall. So there's other solutions where the middle is the sports VR, which I show you guys. We do have a live streaming for Fashion Walk. We do have a bit of hedge funds fighting event, and a different technology forum, and of course, properties, using VR in properties, and we have VR brochures for different brandings. Our upcoming sports events. So right now, most of our events are majority in Hong Kong and Macau, as we headquarters, as we based it there. But in the coming time, we're going to expand our, into Southeast Asia area, and hopefully, right on Spartan, we're probably looking for the next race will be in Australia. So hopefully, we can be there. And so one thing though, so you probably have the questions when you think of using VR and sports. You probably picture that, oh, I want to see if you can experience, let's say NBA, right? I know next VR in California, they are doing NBA live streaming. You probably have the questions, why not doing that? Why do you just take a footage and do a production or a making of the event? So we do experience, we do try to do a live streaming event for a sports event. But the thing is, like, live streaming on 360 is still, I don't think is competitive with a traditional 2D yet. Because when you watch a sports event, you want to watch the whole movement. You want to watch the ball from here to there. You want to see the whole thing. While VR will have these limitations where it will give you the feelings that you are actually sitting there watching the game. But it will not really help you to understand the whole match. Rugby 7 in Hong Kong or some other countries is a good example. They do have VR live streaming as well, but it just gives you an angle where you're sitting on the floor. When the people throw the ball on the other court, you don't see the ball at all. You have to wait for the whole crew coming running back. So that's why we are thinking we are thinking of ways to how to make the contents more fun, and the fact that the people are willing to go back and watch it afterwards. So right now we are focusing on making footage, interviews of the trainings. How do you train for this kind of events? How do you actually do it? How do you manage to do that in your daily exercise? And we combine into a sort of like a footage where the people are willing to read it all over again. So these are our partners and our sponsors here. I don't go through the details. All right. So these are the demographics of all the events. So basically, all the events that we partnered so far, we collect all the data, and these are the collection of all the demographics of our clients. So adults, 77%, while the other will be 8%. So as you can see, the reason that I bring this up is actually I already mentioned that. So these are I would call that the big data 1.0. So as you can see, these are the genders, languages. These are already generic data. But in the next stage, in big data 2.0, we are talking about the behaviors in terms of the kids, in terms of the males. What would they actually do? What would they actually look at? How long would they spend in there? How focused are the kids and things like that? So that will be the next generation of the big data using the VR technology. All right, I think I'm a little bit running out of time, so I'll just jump through it. So these are the technologies, and which I already mentioned. So these are all the formats of VR which we are going to, which we are using right now for our VR advertisings, which we got to pre-roll videos, which embed the logos or fashion logos or 3D objects, which could be very creative. So these are the cameras that we are using right now. We've got, consumer grade to sports grade to commercial grade to, industrial grade. All right, so that's all. So, my presentation, there's a much more which I didn't cover in the presentation, but I guess I can, keep discuss in the next panel discussion. Thank you very much.